letting them fail and seeing it's not the end of the world. I think that's pretty important in a team. So fostering, just an accepting environment, or like, hey, it's no big deal. You I think that's important for teams.
Welcome to the Las Vegas IT podcast. My name is Shatoya, and today I actually have the pleasure to be speaking to Dante Rocha, who is with US Anesthesia Partners. How are you doing today, Dante?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited to get to know you a little bit better. Dante, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the journey of IT?
So really is like gaming. Back in high school, I was a big StarCraft gamer. I would play with people online like all over the world, but I connected with somebody locally like at my high school who actually played StarCraft as well. And we started playing together, and he would come over to like my house. And this guy was actually in IT as well. So we kind of, had a lot of things in common, but it was back in the day when we would have like LAN parties and, configuring all the computers so you could play. And so that's kind of how I kind of started out.
Got it. And so you said the games that you guys used to play did you say Stardust?
StarCraft.
StarCraft. Okay, I heard you wrong.
Yeah.
No, and I'm guessing that game was on the computer.
Yeah. It was originally for the computer. Then they came out for the Nintendo 64, actually. And it's actually still around. Like they got a new like StarCraft 2, I think, but I kind of got out of it. I got so good at it, I actually became like I got on a pro team.
Ooh,
So
wow.
it was kind of intense, right? But yeah, that's where I started off.
That's pretty cool. I'm a 90s baby, so I played the Nintendo 64 as well. So that's awesome. And then, so, I guess you getting into the IT industry, I guess, came from gaming.
Yeah.
And so I guess how did you make that into a career though?
So my house was always kind of like where everybody hung out. My mom was like one of those moms where she's like, I need to know all your friends and like, why don't they come over here type of thing. So word got out pretty quick, like, oh, like Dante's having a game night or whatever. And I guess just gaming and IT kind of go hand in hand, thinking back. So I when laptops came out, well, not came out, but like when I discovered them, right? I had moved into an apartment, my first apartment, and I had a desktop because I've always had desktops. But it was just so hot. Like, I don't know if you've ever been in a small room with a desktop, like the heat, especially here in Vegas. So I started getting into laptops, and then my laptop would break. So I would fix them. And then just word of mouth, like everybody kind of knew me as the computer guy. And then it got so busy where I was like, hey, I could probably make a living from this. And I started like advertising, kind of like, taking it serious, and started my own company, and then started doing commercial. I did some like small real estates, dealerships, actually, things like that. And kind of it was all kind of on the job hands experience, right?
Got it. And I personally feel like a lot of times your hands-on experience is the best experience you could ever get because you can only learn so much from a book.
Right.
So that's so awesome. One of the things that I did get from, looking at your LinkedIn profile that you have experience in banking. So I guess that's kind of like a different jump from banking from like IT. So I guess like how did that what inspired you to make that switch?
Yeah. So I've always been kind of like, I don't like to overthink things. So I just kind of jump in and figure it out, get it done type of mentality. So when I moved out of my mom's, that was kind of how I did it. I didn't have any savings. I didn't have anything. I just like had a car, right? So I needed a job. I got a job at a bank. Um, Started as a teller and met a lot of people there. That's kind of where my business, like I'd say like business networking or business foundation kind of started. Because at the bank, you have a lot of regulars who are business owners who go to make deposits, things like that. But one of the things I realized, like it got so repetitive. The bank is just, you just follow a script, right? And you just repeat, repeat, repeat. But the constant thing that always changed was the customers. So, hearing their stories, talking to them, interacting, that was kind of like like what I liked about, banking, and just seeing people, talking to people, meeting new people. And I've always been curious. So, I'll ask them like, "Hey, how's your day going?" Like, "Hey, how do you get so much money?" Sometimes I got in trouble. Like, yeah, it's just I've met a lot of people there. Got this. I remember this one lady specifically. She was like young, like 18, 19, and she would come into the bank with $10,000, $20,000 at a time depositing. And one time I was like, "Hey, like, what do you do? Like, how do you?" She's like, "Oh, I breed bulldogs." So it's like, you get all these crazy, like, you don't really think about it, right? But it's out there, and it's kind of could be successful. It could not. But that's kind of what I liked about it, and that's so. Sorry, I kind of got off topic there, but
You're fine.
but yeah, that's I once I realized, that I liked talking to people and kind of the creativity aspect of it. That's when I started looking for other, you know, avenues or careers, and like I said, I had already had like gaming and a lot of friends, so it kind of just merged. Right time, right place, right.
Awesome. I feel like a lot of us are like that, but that's so awesome just to hear that. When you are currently working as an IT support specialist at US Anesthesia Partners, what does a typical day look like for you?
So yeah, I'm a hybrid worker, so I go in three days a week, and so I'll log in, check my ticket queue, respond to any escalations, anything urgent, obviously, things that break overnight, and then just kind of plan my day, based on priority, or what's going on. A lot of it is talking to customers, scheduling meetings to diagnose something or fix something. So kind of just, like I said, schedule my day with meetings, and then just go throughout the day there. I always like to leave some time for walk-ups, because there's always somebody have another mouse or something crazy, right? So that's I also do inventory. So I try to do it like every 1 or 2 weeks, just to keep on top of it. But it's kind of day to day. There's no A lot of times the conference rooms will go out. So just kind of depends what's going on.
Oh, gotcha. And then you did mention with working in the banks kind of scene that you did enjoy the customer kind of be, customer focused. So when it comes to IT, like how does that align?
Yeah. So I mean, in my title, it is a customer facing position, and dealing with people. So it's kind of like a juggling act, right? You have to, entertain somebody while you're fixing their computer, or, sometimes I think the hardest ones are like the urgent, like VIPs, that a lot of times those people, they kind of used to like dropping off their car to the mechanic and then coming to pick it up type of thing. So for them to have to sit there and wait and like look at you, or like that's kind of like a little bit of a skill, or a little bit has a little bit of nuance to it, right? My Like the way I am, just my personal, I just kind of pretty honest, and upfront with people, like, hey, this is gonna take probably about 30 minutes, an hour, like feel free to go get coffee, or whatnot, or we could hang out, we could chop it up. Most people are pretty happy, pretty reasonable. But yeah, that's I kind of like, what I do is I think out loud. So I'll explain to them like, hey, like I think it could be this, or like I'll list out possibilities, like could be this, this, this. Let's try, like, kind of lay out the game plan, or give them an overview of what I'm doing or how it's going. And I feel like that helps.
Got it. No, that makes sense. And then one of the things when I had a phone call with you, like what I think on Monday, I think
Yeah.
one of the things that you said that you're very passionate about is like the media servers, home automation, home like I guess what would you say can you share with us that excites you most about these technologies?
Automation, it just makes your life so much easier. Like I'm always like looking. I think that that's kind of double-edged sword for me, where you're kind of like, you're ambitious and you want to like improve or like, but it's like a never ending, like me and my wife, we kind of, she sees it as a negative where I see it as a positive. She's like, why are you always looking, like, can't you just be okay with what you got? So yeah, just the efficiency, like even just something simple like washing the dishes. I'm all about getting a dishwasher, putting it in, throwing it in, leaving it. We recently got the washer dryer combo. So it's like you throw it in and it comes out dried and cleaned. And so just things like that where it actually makes a difference is what I'm passionate about, what I like. Media servers, it's again saying like the convenience. Any room I'm at, any TV in my house, I could pull up the same movies, the same music. So I think just the convenience of it, and not just for myself, but like for everybody in the house, kind of is what I like about it.
Gotcha. And then when it comes to some automations, like what are some automations that you're currently using as an IT professional?
So automations, I get my dog he in my just personal house. My dog one time he got out and he chased the UPS guy, and it was something unexpected for me. Like I never thought that. I never like thought I had to worry about it, and I didn't even know if he cared. Like he's a nice dog, So it just caught me off guard, and I was like what else goes on around here that I don't like? So I had a security system in my house, couple cameras, but I've automated it to like it detects, like humans or vehicles, and that's like so much give me so much insight into like I never knew like this guy every morning at 5 a.m. he's running around the neighborhood. Um, or like my dog will bark at this dog, or like I think one time he jumped the fence to the neighbor's house and he comes back. So it's like I guess it's nice to have that like insights, right? So you use like I guess in this case it'd be automation to gain insights about things you will never know about.
Got it. No, that totally makes a lot of sense. And what are some of the coolest IT projects or tech projects that you've worked on recently?
There's all when you buy a house and you own a house, there's always like projects. But IT specifically, just little like improve. I've come to realize or see that like sometimes the like just little incremental improvements in things takes a long time. Like it's a lot of work. You think like for my media server, I have it set up to get movies, online, but recently it started duplicating. So you'll go to to TV or device and pull it up and it'll be like three or four of the same movies. So I wrote like a little script to kind of go in and delete it. And so just tinkering with little things like that. It's kind of, saved up. It actually filled up my hard drive because it was duplicating so much. And then everybody's like, like, what's going on? So just I think the little details, fine tuning things is kind of where I'm spending a lot of my time recently.
Understood. My husband's very similar, so I understand where your wife is coming from.
Right.
And then so when it comes to like if you could possibly invent the perfect smart home gadget, what would it be?
I think like a central like a central control panel. Basically, like how Iron Man has his assistant, you could talk to it and it'll do just a central hub for that integrates with everything. So I don't think there's, it's probably close, but I don't think that exists yet. Where control the music, the lights, thermostat, water detection, like water leak detection, just kind of all in one, right? Voice
Got
commands. I think that'd be kind of cool.
got it. So like one application where it controls everything in the house.
Yeah, yeah.
Understood. And then when it comes to like, have you ever encountered a particularly tricky or unusual IT problem that required some out of the box thinking
Oh yeah.
to solve? You're like, oh yeah. Like, what
Oh
could you
yeah,
share some with
definitely.
us or some examples? And let's
Yeah.
talk about it.
So there was this. This was during COVID. So I think there was a backlog or a shortage or something was going on with the supply where we didn't have any, replacement, anything. We just kind of had to make do with what we had, right? And I get a ticket to, for a user having keyboard issues, like some keys weren't working, this and that. And I diagnosed it. We got on the phone, we figured it out, and they actually came in, I think, as well. But one of the keys wasn't working. I think it was like, and it was a major, like a shift key or a control key, like a really commonly used key. So I kind of thought, I was kind of like thinking, like, hey, you got to replace your keyboard. There's really no way around it. And I started, searching, Googling and trying to figure it out and this and that. And I found a registry edit that could actually remap a key. So you could like take like F6 or something and remap it to, and I talked to the customer about it. I said, hey, this is kind of off the wall solution, but it's better than not having it. So, and they were on board with it. So they're like, yeah, do it. And yeah, I was able to remap it too. It's like, to do shift, you have to like press F8 and
Got it. No, that's cool. I've never heard that one before.
right.
Uh, and then, when it comes to, being in IT, what are some of the key traits would you say that, makes a successful IT team? And then also, how do you develop and mentor team members?
I think IT like just has a general like it has the kind of a quirky personality, like a lot of IT people are very focused. I think like really focused and kind of more rigid or more like by the rules or so for a successful IT team, I think there has to be room for creativity, room for mistakes. A lot of times with this personality type, if they do something and it's not what they intend, or they kind of beat themselves up for it, like more so than they should. So I think having that in mind, from a manager's perspective, letting them fail and seeing it's not the end of the world. I think that's pretty important in a team. So fostering, just an accepting environment or like, hey, it's no big deal. You know, I think that's important for teams.
Yeah, and I do agree with you as well. Very, very important, to let your team fall. Of
Right.
course, be there when you need to be there to help them back up. What like when it comes to your approach to problem solving with working with cross-functional teams on complex IT projects, like how do you go about this?
So I try to listen. A lot of times, listening goes like a huge way. I think that's another thing that's missing with a lot of, especially in IT. Everybody, you say something and everybody jumps all at once, like, oh, try this, do this. Blah, blah. So I kind of let the dust settle, and it's a technique I learned just over the years, trial and error. Like you have so many personalities, especially cross functional, or like sometimes people think they know best. Um, and you're just sitting here like, I've already done that. I've already tried that. And they're telling you the same thing. And it's like, so just like, okay, I hear what you're saying, let them finish. And I think that's an important one, listening, letting people say what they need to say and then responding. And a lot of times I'll let people cut me off because it's like they're just so like passionate about it, right? That they that they could go for days and days and eventually they'll realize like I should like, what do you think? Like, it gets to the point like, hey, Dante, what do you think?
And I actually like that saying to let the dust settle. Like that
Right?
totally makes sense with what you're currently saying. Because if not, like if everyone's super excited, like no one's you're not listening to the individual. So I get that, which is awesome for you to do so. And then, technology is always changing. We have AI, we have all these different things that are just ever, evolving with our technologies. But how are you currently staying ahead of emerging technologies and trends in the IT infrastructure?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think just my personality just lends itself to like, I'm always curious. I'm always like looking for new things, like CES, being here in Vegas too. That's like a big one. I stay curious. If you're a curious mind, I think that kind of just, you kind of don't even realize it's changing, right? Because you're just like, oh, there's something new. Let me check it out. um, but yeah, CES is a big one for me. I'm always like, I'm not really too big on names or like it. I focus more like on the technology and what's new. I think a lot of people make the mistake of like brand loyalty, or like they'll say, "Hey, what's the latest Apple device?" or like, and it's like, okay, so but I do like, I've had training, I do courses with AI. It's like every answer is like a course. You put something in there and it'll tell you like detailed, explanation. So if you want, it's kind of what you make of it, right? You could get as detailed as you want, or kind of just a brief summary or overview of what you need to know. But yeah, I mean, just like conventions or training, I think would be a good resource.
Understood. And then you said CES. Do you attend every year?
I've never been, but
Oh,
I do like, I like, after it's done, it's kind of like, I'm always kind of, when something new comes out, I'm like the last one to see it, or like try to get the bugs out or see, and then I'll go and check it out. So I'm like a couple months behind, right? But but no, I've never been, but I follow it. So I'll go on YouTube and check out a couple videos and see what's new.
yeah.
Um, but yeah.
Well, YouTube's a great resource. But just to kind of go over that, kind of all the information that you share, like how do you not get overwhelmed? Because I do feel like when it comes to information, there's a thing of too much information. So how do you not get overwhelmed with all the changes and like stay focused?
Yeah, I haven't put too much thought into that, but if I'm thinking, just thinking through it, I think it's specific to everybody, right? So I mean, like, see, I don't think you can talk to somebody at CES and say, "Hey, give me a summary of everything you saw," and they're not gonna. There's some things they're not gonna remember. So just things stick out to you, like, oh, if you're, I don't know, into surveillance, you'll remember like, hey, they had this new camera out, or so I think it just kind of, just whatever you're interested in, that's kind of what you know most about. And then you have like a good general understanding of other areas, right? So
Gotcha. That does make sense. And then also, I feel like if you do ask someone from CES, I feel like depending on who you ask, you're going to get 100 different answers.
yeah, exactly right. So perspective comes into play there.
Yeah, 100%. And then when it comes to, as we talk about all the changes that are going on, but how do you see cloud computing and enterprise IT evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
Cloud computing. Well, this whole multi-cloud, model, I think is really where it's going, or kind of has headed. I guess you could think of it two ways. I've seen kind of, and they're kind of polar opposites. I've seen where people are going back to on-premise infrastructure. I read a blog or review or something about a company that actually went to the cloud. They're spending like billions and millions of dollars or whatever. But they went back to like on-premise hardware, and they're talking about the savings and like like I guess it's kind of like overkill for them. They didn't really need it. Um, so I can see that happening for maybe some small business. Kind of same thing like electric. I don't know if you've heard, but there's a lot of like pullback on electric, where they're kind of reconsidering and kind of going more the hybrid route. So that may happen, or I've kind of seen like one business, right? But the other other end of the spectrum, it could be where larger corporations or like, big enterprises that do need the, all the resources, all the, the flexibility that comes with the cloud, expand more on that, where it's like the multi-cloud strategy, where it's like, you have Google Cloud, Amazon, all the big names. Uh, and I think there's companies pretty well positioned for that. Like I see companies who kind of position themselves for that. So it kind of like, kind of gives a little bit of insight as to where things are going. But who knows?
Right. We could go 100 different directions.
Right.
So true. And then, like, what advice would you give to an inspiring IT professional looking to pursue their career in this industry?
You know what, with IT, a lot of something that I think a lot of people don't talk about or kind of overlook is just the physical aspect of it. Before I got into IT, I was like really active. I'd play soccer, and I was out. I'm the opposite of a homebody. I'm always out doing something, meeting people. Even if I go to the grocery store, I'm talking to the cashier. um, but when I got into like IT in a corporate setting, like in a job setting, um, I feel like, I remember like my first week or two at at a job, my legs would go numb because I was sitting down so long, like, and I just kind of went with it, like, hey, this is normal. And so anybody, yeah, I'm sure you've heard all kinds of things, but I think just the physical, at like stay active, find something to do outside. It's good for mentally as well, kind of like a de-stress. So I think that's a good little piece of advice.
Totally. And I recently got the Apple Watch, which I'm in love with. And one of the cool aspects of the Apple Watch, it actually tells me if I've been sitting too long.
There you
To
go.
stand up, which is awesome. Because a lot of times, just doing the work that I do, I could sit at my desk forever
Yeah.
and not stand up. So I agree with you 100%. Just the importance of being active and making sure you're taking care of yourself. It's super, super important. And then what's next for you within your career journey? And like, I love to know about it. I know you did talk about your business that you started. I don't know if that's still something that you're still in. Like, are there some new projects that you're currently working on or projects that you're looking forward to? Like, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. So I did start a computer business, kind of like repair, trade type thing. And I actually had a little stand at the swap meet, at the outdoor swap meet. And it got so big, I had like two or three stands out there at one point. And, but, when I started employing people or hiring people, it just kind of went in a direction I didn't want it to. And, with the family, I had a fat growing family, and, Vegas being a 24-hour city, it was like I was getting calls at 3 in the morning, which wasn't a problem in the past, but, just, just different lifestyle change. So I don't have the business anymore. Close that down. Some cool projects. I'm implementing AI into my security system. So there's a basically what it is. It takes a picture of, so I have human detection, vehicle detection. What this does is it'll send a picture or video clip to AI to decipher, kind of, yeah, basically decipher it, and it'll send a description like, hey, there's a person, like a delivery UPS driver walking across your yard. It kind of explains it, right, and then it'll text that to your phone. So it's kind of like the next, like I said, a lot of it is just these little details or things like little small increments that you don't you don't really think is beneficial. It's like, okay, yeah, but it's a lot of work on the back end, but once set up, it's so convenient, so nice because we have a school bus stop right next to our house, so there's always kids walking by and setting it off. So it'd be nice to kind of get like a look like, hey, it's just a little kid walking, or or like you got a package, or just more. So that's a big project. I'm kind of looking to start here soon.
Understood. No, that's awesome. Like those little resources are awesome. Just so you have an idea, just for art to feel safe, which is awesome. And if someone's looking to reach out to you, Dante, like how do they do so?
LinkedIn would be good. That's I'm pretty active on there. Try to always looking for new opportunities. I'm kind of open book. So if you
Got
have
it. And
something
that's
to
actually
share.
so sorry. But that's actually how we got connected was LinkedIn, which is awesome. It's a great location where you can make great connections. And I'll be sure to put that in your in the description. Dante, do you have anything that you else that you would like to share with the audience before we go?
No, just I mean, if you're looking for any IT advice, like I said, hit me up on LinkedIn. IT is a great field. It's growing. If you're looking to get in or if you're in the field, happy to connect.